The college football experience, week 0 DFS and Underdog fantasy plays episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Of course, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. They just introduced college football best ball. Get on over there, folks. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
Hey, what's up, you degenerate gamblers? This is Bill Burr, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, baby.
Yes, yes, yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience. Week 0 DFS. We finally have made it. This is when you know games are on the horizon, folks. YouTube.com/the college football /the college experience. Get on over there, hit that like and subscribe button as we're breaking down all 134 teams. We got our win totals locks episodes all out for each conference, with the exception of tonight's one, which will be the Conference USA, the MAC, and the Independents. And that will put a bow really on. Let's get into this season. Even right here, like this tells us we got live bullets because we're 24 hours away. Actually, 24 hours from now in Dublin, Ireland, they'll be kicking off. It will already be into the first quarter.
I was going to say Georgia Tech's up 7-0 24 hours from now.
YouTube.com/the college experience. Get on over there because I am excited to break it all down, folks. If you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to, that's fair. My name is Colby Swing at Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
It is true. I never sleep. Tried sleeping last night, 40 minutes, and then White Tiger started screaming at a very high decimal. And I'm just doing college football content through and through here. Got the Bowling Green Falcon preview coming up in a little bit as well. Let's go. I am joined by my co-host. Some know him as the DFS god himself. Give it up for the rooftop IPA drinking, homebrew making, tobacco road living, the free lot giving farmer, earn the basketball league MVP. Give it up for NC Nick in the place to be.
There we go. What's going on, man?
We got live bullets. I can't wait. See, I get offended when I see people say, well, there's only one game this weekend. I get offended. And I also get offended when the DFS slate over at DK does not give us more than 3 games. When there's games out there, they got to start diving into the FCS. It's not that hard. If I can find the goddamn information, they should be able to. What am I missing?
What doesn't make sense is that they have New Mexico and Montana State on the slate, but not Hawaii, Delaware State.
They didn't know they're like, we shouldn't invest that type of man hours in case they don't make it.
I guess so. And maybe people want to see, who's won before 2:30 a.m. Eastern time in the morning or something, because that game starts at midnight. So it's only a 3-game slate.
North Alabama, SEMO should have been in here. McNeese and Tarleton should have been in here.
Yeah, why not? I mean, why not?
Norfolk, Florida A&M as well.
I guess so. But overall, week 0 should have more games. It should have more FBS on FBS games.
What happened?
And
We had 11 last season or 12.
I don't get it. I don't know. I mean, it's a benefit for these teams to play week 0 because then they get an additional bye week. I don't understand it. Yes, the season starts 7 days sooner, so you have less practice time, I suppose. But
dude, if I was all those Texas and Florida schools, I would want an extra home game in August because it would destroy. Even when I think about, Montana State coming into Mexico, and I was surprised to learn that Albuquerque is a higher elevation than Bozeman. But wouldn't that be your advantage? Like if you're sitting there, if you are UTEP, if you are, Houston or Rice or whoever, Prairie View, you're like, hey, we get a chance to have a team from somewhere else come into this heat. Am I crazy?
Oh, no, you're not crazy. I mean, that's one advantage there. The other advantage is you get an additional bye week. And you can say the third advantage where I'm not sure if the stats back this up, but you would think that teams that play week 0 might have an advantage when they play a team week 1 who hasn't played yet. They have a game under their belt, especially if there's, look, face it, today in college football, roster turnovers crazy. So they get an extra game to get everybody on the same page, get some reps in there, some live reps with live bullets. As you said, you think that would be an advantage for week 1 playing against a team that didn't play week 0. But here we are just with 3 games on the DFS slate. And I find it to be an interesting 3 games. And I think there's money to be had here.
Yes. Shout out to Joe Hackney. Rutgers Princeton should open up college football week 0 every year. I actually agree with that. Let's make it happen, Duddy. The first ever college football game, they should lean into that. But once again,
Joe's a big proponent of Northeastern football, and usually I'm not, but I do like that idea.
Yeah, get that week 0 going. Shout out to Big Baller. He says on Wisconsin. Let's go. I am excited still with that 3-game slate. I can have fun with that. You know what I mean? I'm just letting you know that I think we should have more games, and there is more games, and they dropped the ball a little bit, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't honest to my clientele.
People come to you for honesty. They come to you for realness,
for drunken honesty, right?
They say alcohol brings the truth out, right?
Yeah, they do. They do say that. Folks, I want to tell you before we dive into this that you're listening to the College Football Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Everything in the merch store is 10% off with the promo code football. Yes, it is football season. Go out there, get yourself a Pick Dundee t-shirt. All right. It'll really bring home the football season, or a college football experience, or Mike Leach. We have a Mike Leach t-shirt, Swing Your Sword, which was Coach Leach's philosophy. May he rest in paradise. But we want you to swing your sword this football season. All right. Always give your best. All right. Always fight back. All right. And here's your chance to fight back against essentially corporate gambling, helping us out a little bit. Get over to the merch store, promo code football, 10% off everything. Obviously, college football kicks this week, and the Sports Gambling Podcast and this very show, the College Football Experience, has you covered for week 0 picks and then previews and just all your conference futures. Get on over there. And remember, as always, to let it ride. All right, we are back talking DFS. Shout out to Chad G. He goes, Colby looking like you spent a night in Fort Collins. Yeah, I didn't get a lot of sleep. Oh, is it the green shirt too? But
the combination.
Yeah, I could see that happening here. Shout out to Rolex Dad, who's super excited about Tim Skipper and Fresno State. He thinks they can make the 12-team invitational. And J-Man in the chat saying teams that are at the bottom tier P4 teams definitely should do a week 0. Gives their program a spotlight. Also gives them a 3rd bye week. Right. Shout out to Edwin Moore as well. And let's go. So when it came to the DFS slate, once again, you can all play this, folks. If you aren't familiar, if I got to
after the show, we will tweet out, our personal competition, which is open to anybody. So hop on in.
Yeah, we essentially start a group, and we invite the good fans in here. And then look, we're not trying to take all your money with that group. We're trying to take all your money in the merch store. So, look, it's like a couple bucks. Hop on in. You can talk that shit when you beat us. And if you're smart, you just double up the lineup and enter in the real one,
the big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're all inclusive over here. We care about inclusivity. So our competitions are just $5 each. I mean, come on.
I'm sorry. I'm just looking up the definition of inclusivity. Yeah. Anyway, I had fun with the slate, and so I was complaining that DFS that essentially DraftKings did not have enough games. All right,
yeah,
they didn't have the MEAC SWAC challenge there in Atlanta, which I thought they should have had. They should have had McNeese, Starleton, Delaware State, Hawaii. I understand the argument on the Delaware State, Hawaii because it's so late. But at least the Southeast Missouri, North Alabama game, I thought, you can get stats on that just like they got stats from Montana State. So the 3 games they have are Florida State, Georgia Tech there in Dublin kicking off 9 a.m. Then you have the Montana State game in University Stadium there, Albuquerque taking on the New Mexico Lobos. And the third game there is SMU heading to Reno McKay Stadium to take on the Nevada Wolfpack.
The one thing I find interesting about these 3 games, usually in college football, there's a big disparity between game to game with the totals. These totals are almost all identical. I mean, Florida State, Georgia Tech, the total is 55.5. The Montana State game is 54.5, and the SMU Nevada is 55.5. So they're all basically right around the same number. If you're looking at implied total, therefore SMU is predicted to score the most points, being favored by 26 in that game. And then you got Florida State by 10 now. It's come all the way down to 10. On the other hand, Montana State has been going up. That's up to 13 right now. So that kind of tells you probably want to roster most of the players from the favorites.
Yeah. Now I should also mention that if you listen to us, Wednesday, when we're go listen to our week 0 preview picks as far as picking every game, all 8 games on the slate. At that point, it looked like it was going to rain in Dublin, Ireland. Not true now. According to the most recent weather I see, rain on Friday, rain on Sunday. Damn it. I wanted rain. Saturday I am seeing as cloudy, which is that's every day in Ireland, and a high of 63. Now I will say this, 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. That might be able to play a factor. But it seems like it is less likely to rain there. I don't see any, according to weather.com, which, probably propaganda as well. But I kind of led into it picking my DFS roster, thinking that it might be raining there. So I was like, maybe I want to stay away, but I also think Florida State's defense is pretty damn good. And Georgia Tech hiring Santucci, the Elko DC at Duke the past couple of years, it made me think that maybe I don't want to load up in that game. How about
I am on the under in that game. I think I have some pieces in that game for sure. But to your point, Florida State has the best defense of any of the 16s playing. That's obvious.
Yeah, and they bring in like Marvin Jones Jr. in the portal. Obviously, his dad, a legend in the at Florida State and in the NFL. Like their D line is rumored to be one of the best in college football. They bring back
though they're replacing a lot because a couple of those guys got drafted.
Yeah. Fentrell Cypress back in the secondary. Their secondary is supposed to be really good. And then Georgia Tech. I actually think Georgia Tech's defense will be improved under Santucci. You saw what he did with a month of prep to Clemson last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be improved, but it should be noted that Georgia Tech had the 3rd worst rushing defense in the nation a season ago. They gave up over 220 yards per game on the ground, and you better believe I'm going to lean into that when we start talking about our roster here.
Interesting. I rostered zero players in the Florida State Georgia Tech game.
Wow. Okay.
Now I do have some underdog plays with them in a minute I'll get to, but yeah. Are you surprised by that?
A little bit. I mean, I'm pretty spread out between the 3 games. I'll tell you that I rostered nobody on Nevada and nobody on New Mexico.
We are going to have a lot of differences here.
I like it. Well, let's get it started then.
Yeah. Cause my quarterback is Devin Dampier from the New Mexico Lobos at 6,100. I mean, I was a guest on a New Mexico podcast. They're super excited about what Bronco Mendenhall brings. This is their highest pre Mendenhall. He's like their highest recruit they've ever had. And he runs the hell out of the ball. You don't got to look that far back to that game against Boise where he threw for 200 yards. And, the guy had 4 rushing touchdowns on the season, 50 yards rushing that game. But Bryant Vincent was their OC last year. He does not run his quarterbacks. He does not. Go back to his time at UAB. You know who runs his quarterbacks and runs them? To me, I think this is the New Mexico game plan. New Mexico probably saying, yeah, we probably don't have the skill position players that Montana State does, with the exception of Devin Dampier. Let's run him as often as we can. And I think that is the blueprint to winning, is control the clock, run him, do a lot of, how many times do we see this with Brennan Armstrong or Taysom Hill at BYU?
Sure.
6,100. Let's load
Interesting. I don't mind the play. I take it you have a second quarterback also.
I do.
Yeah. So you have one cheap guy and one expensive guy? Or did you go kind of middle of the road for the second one? Go ahead and give out both your quarterbacks. You got Dampier and who?
Well, I originally came into it thinking Dampier was just going to be. I forgot that I've been playing CFL DFS so much. Check out the CFL Gambling Podcast. I didn't realize I could load up with 2 quarterbacks again. I was like, oh shit, yeah. So I built my lineup with thinking Dampier was my guy, and then I got to Superflex. I had all this leftover money, and I was like, okay. So I went with Preston Stone. Now this is scary because Rhett Lashley has said he's playing both quarterbacks. And I think it's really scary because I like SMU minus the points in the first quarter. I like SMU minus the points for the first half. I think SMU could be up 28-0 after the first quarter. And that scares me because you might only get 1 quarter of action of Preston Stone. So that part of me was like, do I go Jennings? He won him the AAC championship. Would they play him 3 quarters? But I even think they might bring in the 3rd string quarterback. So it's a really delicate situation with taking an SMU quarterback. I'll tell you, it actually made me hesitate and think about playing Tommy Mellott, the Montana State quarterback, or Brendan Lewis, the Nevada quarterback, because I was like, in garbage time, could he get points?
Yeah. Well, first off, play the music with Preston Stone because I rostered him as well.
Let's go. Prestone.
And you're right. There's a chance that he might only get 3 quarters worth of football, but I think that'll be good enough.
I was thinking 1 quarter. He might only get 1 quarter.
Well, my problem there is that I think SMU wants to make a splash. I think they're going to put up probably north of 50 points. I think that's going to mean starters play at least into the 3rd quarter. I don't think they're just playing him 1 quarter and pull it if they're up 14-0 or something. I don't think that's secure enough of a lead.
Can I just remind you though that last season they opened up with La Tech. They were up 31-0 at halftime, and the starters did not play the second half.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, La Tech and Nevada are on a similar level, so that is a little bit of a gamble. But I had the money. Nevada was awful last year in stopping the pass, 115th in the nation in yards per game, defending the pass, and they lost 3 of their 4 starting DBs. I don't know, maybe they'll be better this year. But I just think SMU is going to put up some crazy points, some crazy yardage, and I think even if you get only 3 quarters of Preston Stone, I think that's enough for him to at least put up 25 fantasy points or so. So I agree with you there. He's my most expensive quarterback. And I mean, if you want to take a step back and talk about quarterbacks in general, DJU is the most expensive one, and I just don't see how. I don't understand why.
I don't see the value in that one either because Norvell's. I think if you listen to his comments in the offseason, I think he wants to run a lot more this season because the receivers seem to be the weak point of the team.
Well, they're very inexperienced. They have almost like nobody coming back. As far as receivers, I think their leading guy had 13 catches last year. So yeah, very big time question marks with the pass catchers. His 3rd system in 3 years. It's going to take DJU and the passing game a little while to get on the same page. So I don't understand spending up and on DJU there. So I agree with you there. So for me, the second guy was either Haynes King or Tommy Mellott. I like Dampier, but the offensive line concerns me. I think they had 7 offensive linemen transfer out. Now
That's why they're going to run him.
Well, they hit the portal hard bringing in offensive linemen, but
that's why they're not going to drop back and pass. They're going to say, let's run designed quarterback powers with them. I think
he does get more carries than he was last year. He is dual threat. The one thing that can erase, positive yardage on the ground is sacks in college football, unlike NFL. So if that bad offensive line does allow a handful of sacks, well, then, take that, minus 25 yards in sack yardage off of his rushing total. I don't mind the play. I mean, he's an option if you're looking to go cheap, but I had extra money to spend. So Tommy Mellott is also a dual threat guy. Last year, he split time with Sean Chambers. Is that his name?
Yeah. The former Wyoming quarterback. Yeah.
Chambers graduated. So it's all Tommy Mellott. Last time we saw him play, he put up 45 fantasy points against North Dakota State.
151 yards rushing.
Yes. And 200 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. So for me, Tommy Mellott, not having to worry about, sharing snaps with Chambers against the New Mexico defense, who we'll see how that is. Those are my 2 quarterbacks, Stone and Mellott.
I mean, it makes sense. I thought about playing Tommy Mellott as well. I want to talk more about that in a second, but I want to tell you folks out there that the College Football Experience Week 0 DFS episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. As Underdog Fantasy Pick'em gives you a chance to win 1,000 times your entry, or play fantasy football the right way with Best Ball Mania. Yes, and look, Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. We just did an episode, NC Nick, Moneyline Mac. I jump in for a little bit there. Best Ball live draft. It's out there on the College Football Experience feed. Go check it out. I'm so glad Underdog's bringing Best Ball to college football. We've needed this for a while. You can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries as well. So sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Yes, Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. It's giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. You're going to want to sign up, all right, at Circa Sports between now and September 7th. All right. And imagine the regret you're going to feel if you win your office pool, with a couple hundred people, but you didn't enter Circa Survivor, or you'd be a millionaire, because those picks will be good anywhere. All right. But yeah, the season kicks obviously with that stupid ass NFL kickoff on September 7th. That new bullshit kickoff, but use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with the proxy. Go to proxy.footballcontest.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. You're also going to get a free hat. Who doesn't want a free hat? All right, we are back. Shout out to Center saying we are so back. Yes, we are. Tommy Mellott was one I did entertain that. I did really entertain that. My thing is, I kind of think New Mexico's defense, like, the real reason I'm taking New Mexico in the points is because I think the defense will be ahead of the offense. And I can't tell you how many people I've heard mention that Bronco Mendenhall lost to Richmond in game 1 at Virginia, but they did not mention that he had to overhaul the entire offensive and defensive systems. He is not. New Mexico ran the exact defense he's been running his whole goddamn career since Rocky Long. So I think the defense will be in actual decent shape. Now the offense, we'll see about that. I think they could probably keep it vanilla with Dampier, but well,
let me ask you this. How much money do you have left over? Do you have enough money? I mean, if people don't know, maybe it's their first year tuning in. We do a side bet for a bottle of bourbon, and I'm sensing a good side bet here. Dampier versus Mellott, who ends up with more fantasy points.
Yeah, I have $3,000 left over.
Woo! Okay, then it's on. So you're obviously choosing Dampier over Mellott because you think he's going to have a better game.
I think Jason Beck. Remember what he did with the shredder? That's a perfect comparison. What he did with the shredder. All right, at Syracuse there. They're going to run him. Their offense is going to be that. And Ron Lowry in the chat, shout out to Ron, saying the Bobcats have 9 of 11 starters coming back on defense. No, I know Montana State's legit. I mean, I host the FCS College Football Experience. Don't get me wrong. Like, Montana State, in my opinion, should have been in the Mountain West like fucking 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, them in Montana probably should have, and North Dakota State and South Dakota State are FBS teams in my mind. They are a very good team, but I actually think the under is going to play in that game too. I think we gave that out on the week 0 preview and picks, just because I think Bronco Mendenhall steps into a defense that is already familiar with what he likes to do. It's completely different than what happened at UVA. I don't really see the comparison besides just the fact he's a first year coach. So that makes it fascinating. And I also think I'm intrigued to see Tommy Mellott against that defense, because I'm trying to think in my head, I don't know. And I this is off the top of my head right now. I don't know how many run that Rocky Long defense in the Big Sky. Maybe E-Dub does.
I will say that Bronco Mendenhall doesn't always have a great defense. His last year at UVA, the defense was awful.
Yeah, true.
So the last thing I'll say about
some of those BYU teams though were nasty.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about quarterback. So I take it we do have our side bet.
Yeah. Fuck
okay.
yeah.
All right.
Let's go.
If you're a Haynes King guy, season long, I think Haynes King is going to have a very nice season. He's going to put up a lot of fantasy points. But last year, if you look at what he did against the top competition, like the Clemson game, the Georgia game, he was at like 18 fantasy points, 20 fantasy points. Florida State has the best defense on the slate. That's why I think you steer clear of Haynes King too.
Yes, and that's why I don't want any pieces of that game. And at the time, I saw that it was like a 50% chance of rain, which I don't trust the weather. To me, it's always a 50% chance of rain in Ireland. So that's my logic on staying away from that. Now, at the running back spot, I am very curious to see what you do. Did you pay up? Did you go with them Seminole running backs against Santucci?
I went with one of them. Like I said, Georgia Tech had the 3rd worst rushing defense in the nation last year. I went with the Bama transfer, Roydell Williams. I know he's cheaper than Lawrence Toafili. Toafili is an interesting dude because he's been in Tallahassee for 4 or 5 years. But no matter the year, he's always played second fiddle. He was behind Trey Benson last year. He was behind Trayshawn Ward. He was behind Jayshawn Corbin 3 years ago. So that seems to be his role. Norvell and him are comfortable with him being the change of pace back. So I think that Roydell Williams is going to get more carries, and I had to fade that bad Georgia Tech run defense. Again, I had plenty of money, so I went Roydell Williams 7.1K.
I did not roster anyone from Florida State, but I see the logic here, and you might hear that in a little bit on when we transition into.
Let me ask you this: if you were to play a Seminole, who do you like better, Roydell Williams or Toafili?
I think I like Williams. Now, Toafili though might be the better option out of the backfield. But I think I agree with you that that's the play there. Now, my logic was to take every SMU running back possible. So Nevada's defense was horrible last season. I see them talking about it in the chat. Nevada was a terrible, terrible team. SMU, we just had one of their running backs just transferred to Texas after Texas had 2 running backs like in the past 48 hours. One of SMU's running backs, I think 4th or 5th on the depth chart.
Velus Jones, who came over from Kansas. Yeah.
Yes. But they also lost Kamar Wheaton for the season. Kamar Wheaton at the running back spot. So they really are down to 3 running backs in Jalen Knight and LJ Smith and Brashard Smith, or LJ Johnson and Brashard Smith. Look, they're going to, I think, have a huge edge on the offensive line against Nevada. You got Houston Christian on deck. You don't want your quarterbacks injured. I know I'm taking Preston Stone, right? I think they're just gonna run the rock more than normal. So
you told me you rostered all 3 of them.
No, I did load up with with Knighton and my first lineup, I switched it. My first lineup had Knighton and Johnson. Now I ended up taking Johnson off, but I don't even know. That's the hard part, is who's going to get more carries, because that is the hardest part. That's the biggest strategy here, is because you're trying to figure out who will get the more, I think you can build the case that LJ Johnson, he's listed as the second string. So does he get the start? And by him getting the start, does he get less carries than Knighton? it's a very fragile situation there. But I just want some piece of the SMU running back situation.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with SMU in general. Not just running backs, but quarterbacks and pass catchers. I mean, last year they spread the ball around so much, you never had full confidence in any one guy. But I also rostered Jalen Knighton, so you can play the music with him.
Let's go.
I mean, he came over from Miami with Lashley. He is their RB1, even though other guys are going to get carries, like you mentioned. Again, you might only get 3/4 worth of football. You might only get about 15 carries or so. But with that 15 carries, I think he finds the end zone, and I think he's probably around at least 80 rushing yards. Because he's going to break a couple big ones. So he could take 15 carries for like 110 yards or something, and then he's worth the money. And also, money doesn't seem to be an issue on this slate. So that's why I think you go ahead and spend up.
Yeah. And this is where you get creative though, man. Cause I have 2 other running backs. I went with 3 backs. How many backs did you go with?
Yeah, I have one more also.
Okay.
So I have Roydell Williams, Jalen Knighton, and one other guy, but you go first.
Well, I'm going to take you. Like our guy Ron Lowry in the chat is saying, Montana State's bringing back their whole offensive line. Now they're all conference center, and when I mean all conference, he might be the best center in the FCS. He's out. They're starting running back Julius Davis. He's also out. But 4 out of 5 back on the O-line for this particular game. Scottree Humphrey is going to be the guy that's filling the shoes for Julius Davis. He's a value play with 4,600. I'm loading up because I do think that's Montana State's edge. And when I picture Tommy Mellott, I like Tommy Mellott. He's been there for a while. Healthy, I think Montana State will be in the mix to win. To play for a national championship this year. But they're a run first team. Tommy Mellott's not the type of guy that's going to drop back 30 times and throw the rock. So I like Scottree Humphrey there at 4,600 to perhaps have a breakthrough game. And I think most people probably won't even roster him.
I like the play. I do. I didn't roster him though. Again, I had money, so I was toying with the idea of putting him in my lineup. But when I saw I had a couple extra $1,000, I went Jamal Haynes, the running back for Georgia Tech. It is a volume play here. I think he probably gets more carries than the Montana State back. And if you look at last year, yes, Florida State has a good defense. True. But Jamal Haynes ran for over 100 yards against Clemson last year. He ran for over 80 yards and 5 yards per carry against Georgia last year. So even against tough defenses, he still got his yards. The problem with both guys is that their touchdowns can get vultured by the rushing quarterbacks. Haynes King had a shit ton of touchdowns last year. So he stole some of Haynes's touchdowns, and Mellott could do the same for the Montana State backfield. I like your play, but I think Jamal Haynes is a better player in general. I mean, obviously he plays for Georgia Tech and one plays for Montana State. But I'll take Haynes even if he is playing the better defense.
Scottree Humphrey also got that start in the playoff game against North Dakota State. Now they only rushed him 10 times. 10 for 77, 7.7 yards of rush and a score.
I ain't too shabby.
Yeah, I also had 3 for 41 receiving. So I like taking a shot on him. He's undervalued to me. But you're right. Money's not an issue. This is me just strictly saying Florida State's defensive line rumored to be one of the best in college football. And I want to stay away from that.
That's fair.
My third and final running back. I liked watching Iowa State run the rock to Eli Sanders. I circled that when New Mexico grabbed him. I go, ooh, I like that get. So, me, Team Lobo over here. 4,700. Give me Eli Sanders. The depth charts were released. He is their starting running back. So I'm loading up on Eli Sanders here at 4,700. I just think Mendenhall's game plan is going to be, let's not throw the ball much. I know traditionally under Jason Beck, they like to throw more, but not in game one. I don't think it's going to happen in game one. So I like Eli Sanders at $4,700 to have a big day. I just think he's going to get a bulk of the carries. You know what I mean? Like if you tell me you're getting 25, 30 carries, then I just want you on my DFS slate.
They got a couple other guys too, though. You think he's going to get all the carries, even if he's listed as a starter? The guy they bring back, right? Not Krosky Merritt, but I thought they brought back one other.
They did bring back one. Was it Dave? No, why do I keep thinking Davis? It's
Andrew Henry. Henry.
Yes.
Yes, I think Henry's going to get some carries too. I mean, I like the get from the portal from New Mexico getting Sanders. I think Sanders could have a pretty good year, but everything I said about Dampier holds true. I just have question marks about that offensive line. I need to see them, create some holes first. So I stayed away from New Mexico, but I could see a scenario where Sanders carves out a nice game. Sure.
And Ron Lowry in the chat, or Lowney in the chat, saying New Mexico doesn't have a good QB. I would push back. I think that's actually their best offensive player is their quarterback. Look, want to tell you the rest of our roster here, but before I do that, I want to tell you that the College Football Experience Week 0 DFS episode is brought to you by Rhythm. Have you ever wanted to create your own sports betting model for football? Do you even know what a sports betting model is? Well, SGPN's proud partner Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive models in seconds. And they can get predictions for betting on, money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model. Copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or you could press build a custom one, a model just for you. And Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop. So get on over there. They got stats, research trends, analysis to give you more betting insights. Simplify your betting process. Obviously, College Football Week 0 kicks off. I've been using Rhythm for all summer. Oh man, I've been using it for everything: golf, WNBA. So my models are ready to go. I know what to bet on. Some of these random games opening weekend. I've never been more excited to watch Delaware State Hornet football in all my life, NC Nick. So claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of the MLB, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets, though. Take the guesswork out. And this works for college football, too, folks. You're going to go out to McKay Stadium or University Stadium there in Albuquerque. First off, I would encourage it. Get out there. Support college football. All right? But pull out the Game Time app when you do that. All right, take the guesswork out of buying those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, redeeming code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, of course. Once again, redeeming code CFBX, $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we are back. Receiver wise,
I hated it. I hated all the receivers on the slate. I mean, look at it. Florida State, there are 3 wideouts who are expected to start. You have no idea how that's going to shake out. SMU, their receivers are crazy. I mean, they had SMU last year. They had 7 guys that caught between 24 and 42 catches, and had between 370 and 530 yards. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, and you're wondering how, this is a fragile scenario because you're wondering how long they stay in the game. That they have Houston Christian on deck too.
Yeah,
they're to me, it's like they have 2 mulligan. They have 2 games where it's like, let's just trot them out for the first quarter. Stay healthy.
Yeah,
before ACC conference, play starts. So this was a very challenging. This was a very challenging slate, in my opinion. So, I took some shots here. My highest priced guy is from NFL lineage, a tight end. He's Russell Maryland's son, RJ Maryland. I just think when I look at SMU's advantage, I mean, there's an advantage pretty much at every position, but one where I think Nevada just has 0 answers for. It's guarding RJ Maryland, who I think will be an NFL tight end.
He might be the safest bet for any pass catcher on SMU.
Yeah. That was my logic there. So at 5,400, I loaded up I loaded up RJ Maryland there. Ron, by the way, Delaware State is on the island. They all made it there. So just a day late. They don't get a chance to have a few Mai Tais and try to get girls' number there on Waikiki or some of those black sand beaches or pink sand beaches or whatever the fuck. But that's my top price guy. Dude, I have actually 4,100 left over. I thought I'm sorry, because I messed with one lineup before.
Yeah.
So it's 4,100 on this lineup because I switched out of LJ Johnson.
Wow. Wow. Well, my top price receiver is only I think $100 less than yours for 5.3K. I'll take maybe the closest to a true number one I think we have playing it, in all three of these games. That's Eric Singleton for Georgia Tech.
I thought about him. Man.
He was a true freshman last year who started off his college career catching touchdown passes in 5 straight games. So obviously he has a rapport with King. It's both of the players year 2 in the system. So I expect his sophomore campaign to be even better than his first. Wouldn't surprise me if he catches like 5 for 80 and a touchdown or something.
Well, what's interesting there is that you're in good hands if the line is correct. If Florida State just gets up to a 17-0 lead, they're going to be passing the rest of the game. So
I think the game will be closer. I'm taking Georgia Tech in the points because I think they're going to be competitive and they're going to score in the 20s at least. So, as long as Tech gets in the 20s, that means there's, some fantasy points to be had. I
like it. I mean, look, I might even turn in a second lineup with Singleton. If there's one that I want to play in that game, I think from Georgia Tech side, it would be Singleton. Because I don't know.
Are you worried if they put Fentrell Cypress on him?
I am. That was one of the better corners in college football. I would say that's one of my things that was a little concerning. My second wideout is a guy that I had the opportunity to meet in Mountain West Media Days. So actually, no, if I'm going by price, it would not be him. It would be Ty McCullough, the Montana State Bobcats wideout, who last time was stepped on a field against North Dakota State, had 4 for 92 and a touchdown. So I rostered him just because I felt like I'm scratching for value here. And I think he's their clear number one. And I think he will play the entire game. So that's the logic there.
Let me push back some. He was their number one last year, led the team in catches and yardage. They got another guy who didn't play last year, who transferred in from Washington, and before that, he was at Arizona State. I'm going Lunyata Alexander Jr. for 4.2K. He transferred. He was a 2-time transfer, which means the NCAA did not let him play last year. Kind of like the Devontae Walker situation, except for Alexander never got the green light. So we just saw their depth chart. He is starting along with your guy. He's a little bit cheaper. I think your play is safer, but I think Alexander has the higher ceiling. So a little bit of a gamble here, a little bit of a roll of the dice because we've never seen him put on a Montana State uniform before. But I think he could have a big game and a big season.
Yeah. I like it. Getting a little creative there.
Sounds like Derek Miller in the chat is not a fan of ours. Well, you know what? More power to you, man. Keep on listening anyway.
Well, I mean, what does he say? He goes, hopefully you guys are better at football. Your basketball overall was not good. I only tell the truth. Sure thing, buddy. All right, look, have you?
I never tell a lie. Oh, okay, George Washington.
Dude, have you? Why don't you start a show and let me know when you give out the number one? I've cashed for thousands of dollars in DFS as the number one fucking DFS lineup before. Now,
we weren't even doing DFS basketball, so maybe he's just talking gambling. But I had a pretty decent year on the hardwood. I think you guys did too. So hey, you know what? You can't please everybody.
Yeah, I mean, what is he talking about? I also had a Saturday where I opened up with 14 straight locks hitting. I mean, yes, there's days where you have losing days, but anyway, whatever. Start your own podcast, buddy, and give away your picks. Don't just be coming in here saying I only tell the truth. All right, I only tell the fucking truth.
It's Friday afternoon. Come on, who's sipping on Haterade this early on a Friday afternoon?
You know what the truth is? The truth is when you record out there, so that's out there forever, so you can go back and look. All right. We also use this website called Tally Site, which documents all of our fucking picks. You can look at our records. So anyway, whatever, dude. Whatever floats your boat.
All right, we got one guy left each. Is that right?
Yes. And mine is a guy that I met at Mountain West Media Day. I think he's really their only option when I think about this. Now he's never played for them. So, you can't look back and say there's history there. And that is Cortez, Braham, the wide receiver out of Baltimore, Maryland, NC Nick. I had a chance to sit down with him at Mountain West Media Days, West Virginia transfer coming into Nevada. And I thought Jeff Choate to send him there, to Mountain West Media Day as their captain means something. He's 4,700. Like I said, he was a West Virginia transferred. He's from Baltimore. We did have a conversation about the wire. So
did you talk about Pickles Pub outside Camden Yards?
I did not. No, I did not talk about Pickles Pub, but I'll tell you that he did tell me that he's just he feels like this offense has been kind of catered to get him the rock. Okay. So 4,700. Let's go. Now
deep sea diving. I like it.
Let's go.
I stayed away from the Nevada offense completely. My last guy, I had to roster tight end as well. I did not go RJ Maryland. I looked towards Florida State. I looked towards Kyle Morlock, 4.3K. He's actually the leading receiver coming back for the Noles. He caught 20 balls, like 255 yards last year behind Jaheim Bell. Now Bell is drafted by the NFL. Morlock is locked in at tight end number 1. Let me ask you this. Who does DJU like to throw the ball to, especially in the red zone?
Yeah, I mean, we've never seen him at Florida State, but I would say he did that. Who was the tight end that transferred?
Jack Vealing for Oregon State.
Michigan State. Yeah.
He caught 8 touchdowns last year. In 2022 at Clemson, the two Clemson tight ends, Brenningstool and the guy on the Rams, Davis Miller, is that his name? Davis?
Yeah.
Davis Miller's his name. They both combined for 9 touchdowns. So just give me a touchdown. Give me a touchdown out of Kyle Morlock, maybe 50 yards and a couple catches. I think that could definitely be in the cards, and that rounds out my lineup.
I do think that it's like a safe play because those wide receivers are unproven, and like they didn't necessarily excel in the spots they were at before. So I could see that being his security blanket, the old tight end there.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to beat you though, dude. And we invite you to come play DFS with us. Give us a follow on Twitter at at TCE on SGPN. Hop on over there. We will tweet out we'll probably retweet it from NC Nick's account at NC__NICK. So get on over there. And now we switch over to Underdog Fantasy, folks, which I highly encourage you to check out with the promo code TCE SGPN. But they have some obviously best ball. I have been waiting for college football best ball for a long time, so I'm really happy that we even have a I don't even know anyone else doing this. So, what'd you make of the Underdog? We don't have like a DFS we're going to give out. We're just going to give out essentially a higher or lower on their stat projections. So, what'd you make of this situation there at Underdog Fantasy, though?
I wish they had more games, kind of to your point, with some of the FCS games or even like the Hawaii game. So really the only options we have are from the 2 FBS on FBS games, Georgia Tech, Florida State, and SMU, Nevada. So there's not a whole lot to choose from just between 2 games, but still, I already have some bets here, and let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's go, because this is one where I will say I kind of like your philosophy from DFS, because I was surprised at some of these stat projections here. Essentially, the first one here is, for me, I want action on all these SMU running backs. So when I see LJ Johnson at 50.5 rushing yards, give me the higher on that. Like if he starts, I know they could pull him fast, but I still think he'll get like 80 rushing yards. You know what I mean? I don't think he's going to be struggling on the
you said
rushing.
it was at 15.5?
50 and a half.
Oh,
5
I was
0.
gonna say,
Yeah,
I was gonna
5 0
say.
and a half.
I still like that.
Yeah.
I like higher.
Yeah. So that's my first one. I'm gonna get to my next one, but obviously you got to pick more than 2 to play this game essentially. So how about
I have 6 plays, and so if you're listening and if you want to get down on some of my plays, I mean, you don't go on 6, maybe you just go 2 or 3 of them, the ones you like the most. But if we're talking about SMU running backs, I'll take Jalen Knighton higher than half of a rushing or receiving touchdown. I do think he breaks one. He probably breaks a long one in this. A little bit of a gamble because he's only going to play maybe 3 quarters, maybe get 15, 16 carries. But I think Jalen Knighton does fine pay dirt.
Yeah, no, I took him. I have that as part of my, I have him higher than 63 and a half rushing yards. I just think both the key to SMU is like, hey, let's not get our quarterbacks injured. We'll throw the ball around some, but let's just hand it off because we have such an edge on the line of scrimmage. We're going to stay healthy there, so stay healthy at the quarterback spot and just rush our way to. Now there's a lot that you can do here. I even like the higher than 17 and a half as his longest rush. So Knighton, I took higher than 63 and a half rushing yards as well. So you like the touchdown better than the 63 and a half, huh?
I think so, but honestly, I like them both. I think both the SMU running backs could have 70, 80 yards on the ground. But yeah, I think if I'm gonna play it safe, I think he could get a touchdown early on. They're up 28-0, and he only gets a couple more carries the rest of the game.
Yeah, I just feel like they're probably gonna want to bleed the clock too. Like I think they want to get out of there, no one injured. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna be up by 35-7 at half or something.
See, I don't know, because I think they want to make a splash. This is their first game as a major conference team. And they want to start on the right foot and put up a bunch of points. But I like all the plays there, But one play, actually, did you give one? Is it your turn?
Oh no, I took Knighton higher than 63 and a half rushing yards.
So one lower I like on SMU is Preston Stone and passing attempts. I'm going lower than 26 passing attempts because the other dude's going to play too.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the blowouts last year against Prairie View, Preston Stone only had 20 passing attempts. Against Tulsa in that 69-10 win, only 20 passing attempts. In fact, half of the games last year in the regular season, he had less than 26 passing attempts. If this is a blowout, they're going to start slowing it down. They're going to bring in the backup quarterback. They're going to run the ball a little bit more. So I like lower than 26 passing attempts for Stone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a nice angle. So that you played that as your third leg there?
I did.
Well, my third leg was your boy, Tuafili, higher than 42 and a half rushing yards. I'm just loading up on all the running backs here. All right. I honestly think they want to keep it like they don't. Norvell has said this in the offseason that they want to run the ball more, right? Georgia Tech's rush defense was shitty last season. I do think it's going to be better this year, but how much better can you really be? How much better can you really be this fast? So I think that the formula is going to be beat them on the line of scrimmage because that's where Florida State does have the advantage. I would think it was the offensive line and defensive line. So yeah, I think that is the play there. So
you're probably safe there, but I've already planted a flag and say I like Roydell Williams better than Lawrence Toafili. So I'm actually going higher, 67.5 rushing yards for Roydell Williams. Again, fading that bad Georgia Tech run defense from a year ago at least.
Yeah, yeah. And I can tell you, man, I think you're in a good spot with that. Now, I just think. And they don't offer a lot of games here. So I think if you're looking at that, I toyed with the idea of Brendan Lewis with a touchdown there. Cause just garbage time, right?
Well, kind of playing into what you're saying about the running game. I'm fading a couple quarterbacks. Well, actually, I'm only fading one. Let me talk about Brendan Lewis first, because I do have a play on Brendan Lewis, and he's a quarterback that I'm not fading. due to the game script, I expect Nevada to be passing a lot. So I'm going higher than 141.5 passing yards for Brendan Lewis. I mean, they're going to be playing from behind all game long. If you're SMU, you probably
and Purdy's injured. Purdy's injured, so exactly. I don't think you're going to go to the third string quarterback.
I mean, 141.5 isn't that much to get over, especially if SMU drops back into a prevent. They, allow a lot of stuff, short yardage passing, just basically giving them, some completions. So I like the higher on Brendan Lewis's passing yards.
Yeah. And I mean, another one that I would give out before we get out of here.
I have one more too.
Okay, good. I'm going to take a shot on Jamal Haynes, higher than 11.5 receiving yards. So my logic here is that Florida State's defensive line is nasty. Well, how do you neutralize one of the best defensive lines in college football? Screens. Give me Jamal Haynes higher than 11.5 receiving yards. How about you?
I like it. The guy caught 20 balls last year for 151 yards. It looks like he went over that receiving.
Up. Did we lose you?
Up. Where did I leave off?
Oh, there we go. Higher than receiving yards, you said.
Yes, I would say last year Haynes had higher than that total in about half of the games he played, and in that Louisville game to start the season, he had 4 catches for 56 yards. So not a bad play there.
Yeah.
My last play, I talk about fading quarterbacks. I'm going to fade DJU and his passing yards. I'm going to go lower than 234.5 passing yards because I do think it's going to take time to get that air attack going, and until then, Florida State is going to lean on their dominant offensive line and their strong run game.
I like it, buddy. I like it. And yeah, folks, this is some of the great stuff that Underdog Fantasy offers. And like I said, you can also play best ball college football. Get on over to Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code TCE SGPN. Yeah, have a good old blast over there. And yeah, I hope you realize, folks, that this is just, we've been doing this shit for years as far as the DFS front. So we will be here pretty much every Friday, but even some weekday ones, once there's a bunch of weekday games, hop on over there and subscribe to the College Football Experience, because we're just getting started DFS wise. We love DFS. We're going to, and hopefully Underdog Fantasy offers more stuff too, but obviously Best Ball, we're going to feature that with Best Ball. So get on over there and check out Underdog Fantasy with the promo code TCE SGPN. Also, youtube.com/the college experience and iTunes, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be found. Make sure you also give NC Nick a follow on Twitter at NC__NICK. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. Yeah, we're just check out all the 134 previews. All right. We're loading up. I'm already looking at Thursday's slate. Oh God, let's go. Yeah, till next time. We'll be back also later tonight with our CUSA, MAC, and independent lock win totals preview. That's our final conference win totals lock episode, or episodes, I should say. It's all on one. And then also check out, we have the Bowling Green preview scheduled and the Flamin' Libs of Liberty scheduled for today. We're rolling. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have a pregame show right before the Dublin, Ireland game at the Viva Stadium there. Shout out to Ryan Hasty in the chat. Let's go. Appreciate it.
We even swayed Derek.
Hey, Derek Miller, you guys are not that bad.
You're all right, man.
Hey, I'm going to write that down. You said you're writing down everything here. All right. I never lie. All right. You're a hell of a good son of a bitch, Derek. All right. Take care. Till next time, folks. This is the College Football Experience. Check out all of our stuff. FCS College Football Experience, the Stadium Heads podcast, where we talk about the history of college football stadiums. Yeah, College Basketball Experience goes live every single night of the season. College Baseball Experience, all of that comes together as one. YouTube.com/the College Experience. Till next time, this is the College Football Experience, DFS style. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here.
Right.